Alrighty, welcome back, everyone, to the Second Take podcast. My name is Casey.
And what's up, guys? My name is Alex. Welcome back to another episode. Today we are joined by two lovely guests. If you'd like to introduce yourself first, Jonah.
On my first podcast, my name is Jonah DiGiacomo, and I'm joined with...
I'm Ryan Janeshill. Not my first time on the pod, but first time in about 3 years.
Yeah, and it's their first time on the pod with us. We're very excited to have them on today. They offer a little bit of a different perspective than what me and Alex usually bring, so should be a good time. Now, for those of you who might be joining in for the first time, we are part of the George Washington Sports Business Association, and keep a lookout for any sort of events that may be coming up, or if you have any interest in joining the podcast or writing for the blog, feel free to go to our Instagram, which is GWUSBA. That's GWUSBA, or you can go to our link tree. And with that being said, I think we can get started.
Yeah, so let's hop right into it. And we're at a bit of a lull in basketball today, but with spring training starting to pick up a little bit, we can start talking about baseball. And something that I think is a really great way to give us a preview into what to expect from the MLB season is the World Baseball Classic. So, being that we are Americans in America, let's start first by talking about a team that will be of the greatest interest to us all, which is Team USA. And Ryan, when we were talking before, I kind of got the feeling that you believe this team should really, kind of run the tables here. So tell me a little bit about what you like about this team and maybe if there are any drawbacks if you see them.
I think this is just the deepest team on paper. This offense is going to make some noise. The big dumper, Cal Raleigh, behind the plate, fresh off 65 homers, catching record, switch hitting record, whatever you got. He just destroyed that. And then in the infield, you have question marks at positions, but in a good way. You have Gunnar and Bobby Witt Jr. I prefer Bobby Witt Jr., but you can move Gunnar to second,
right,
or you can play my boy Bryce Terang. Shout out the Brewers. And then you got Bregman at third and Harper at first. And then you get in the outfield, and it's reigning MVP Aaron Judge, young phenom Roman Anthony, Byron Buxton, who's looking to be healthy this season, and then Pete Crow Armstrong. And then your designated hitter, Kyle Schwarber.
So happens to be
Kyle Schwarber.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with you on that front. It's star-studded from top to bottom. And I guess we could talk about some of those position battles. Bobby Witt versus Gunnar Henderson is interesting, but I think one of the more interesting ones that fans might be a little more torn on is that battle, presumably in center field. If it were up to me, I would leave PCA out of that, three-man outfield rotation just because of like the second half of last year. He really did fall off a cliff. And I do think players like PCAA kind of pander to like highlight cultures of sports leagues where it's like you see him make incredible 5-star catches. And yes, he is an incredible defender, but I'd rather have a guy like Byron Buxton who's also an incredible defender and can actually, make an impact down the stretch. I feel like the consistency is something that Team USA, given, the stars at the top of the lineup, they're just going to be looking for consistent contributors at the bottom of the lineup to get guys on base for the guys at the top.
And talking about consistency, I mean, Byron Buxton, obviously, he's the guy who's missed more games than any other quote-unquote superstar. He played the most games he had in 2025 since 2017. He was MVP voting that year. Last year, he was MVP voting, almost put up a 5-WAR season.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a guy who you want contributing consistency. I know we don't use that word for him often. What do you think, Ryan?
It says more about Pete Crow Armstrong being trash than Byron Buxton being good, even though Buxton is part of the only reason the Twins have any shot this year to even finish anywhere near 500. He is an incredibly talented player. I remember his stretch in 2021 when he was just raking that whole season, and I know the injury bug got him, but he's such a dynamic player, so talented, but it's a tough spot, and I prefer with the lineup that they have and what they're going to do. I think having a right-handed bat at that part of the order, whether it's 8 or 9 or I guess maybe even 1, but whatever it is, I like that to get on base more than PCA, who hit a $185 in the playoffs and really was an automatic out 12 Ks in the 8 games.
Just cannot
he
win
played.
with that.
Yeah.
No, he actively cost them because Milwaukee tried to blow it, and then he had 5 hits and 27 at bats, walked once, but not great.
Yeah. I know, at least with PCI, I know a big draw might be his defense, but I mean, yeah, I'm kind of with you guys in the sense that I think his back season production, at least around the plate, just isn't enough to kind of give him that starting spot. I think Roman Anthony was really impressive. I mean, his on base was nearly 400, and Byron Buxton, when he's healthy, I believe is a premier player, like maybe top 30, top 35 in the entire league. And I think, is Roman Anthony, he's a corner outfielder, right? Or is he center?
He's been playing a lot of left.
He's been playing a lot of left?
And right until he got hurt because he only played 71 games this year. He got called up
Yeah.
after they traded Devers in June, and then he got hurt like an oblique strain in August or September. But third in Rookie of the Year voting, primarily playing a corner outfield spot.
And that gels well with this current construction that we're looking at. We're
Exactly.
going to have Judge in right, Anthony in left, and Buxton in center, where all three of those players are used to playing.
Yeah, exactly.
And then taking a look over at the rotation, who do you think, a lot of big names here, but, I know we were kind of discussing before who gets that first start, Paul Skeens or Scooball. And then you have two more spots that you're going to need, down that final stretch, assuming, the U.S. makes the likely run to the finals that
hopefully.
I think they should. After Skeens and Scooball, who are you guys looking at? Because I believe I'm not mistaken, but Joe Ryan, I think, had Tommy John or some sort of injury in the past couple weeks. I might be thinking of,
Pablo Lopez.
Pablo
his
Lopez,
teammate,
okay,
got
that's
banged
right,
up.
that's right.
I think he's done for the year, actually.
He is, yes.
Awful for them.
Okay, so scratch that. But outside of those two guys, who do you guys see, backing them up in the rotation?
I mean, 100%, you've got to say Scooball is going to be the game one starter.
I think so.
Only because he said he's only going to make one singular start for Team USA during this week WBC.
Yep, really.
And it's unfortunate that a player, you've got so much controversy surrounding the insurance and whether they're actually going to play. And so far, Team USA has been able to field a great team. But, I would feel much more confident in Team USA's ability to actually challenge Japan if Scooball was going more than just one start.
Right.
And with Scooball, the big thing hanging over him this season is his impending free agency. I know the whole drawn-out arbitration with the Tigers, they were very far off on money. He's going to command an incredible market if he gets there. And if we even have baseball next year, which is a whole nother conversation. But
Yeah.
I think he starts game one, and I think Skeens gets two. And I think you go Logan Webb.
I was
going
gonna
to
say.
Yeah.
Logan Webb is so consistent. He's really talented. Great sinker, great slider. It's going to throw some of these guys off. And if you throw Skeens, in the semifinals or something, and you need a guy to start in the final, Logan Webb smells like that guy for me.
100%. One could even argue Logan Webb is a top 10, top 8 pitcher of this decade so far. He's thrown
100%.
over 200 innings the last 3 seasons. He's like 3.2 every year. Workhorse, absolutely.
And then what do you guys think about, now this might be a little bit biased, Nolan McLean being number 4 in that rotation? I know he only has last year under his belt on his resume, but my God, can that guy pitch? He was like the one bright spot in the second half of that Mets season.
He's incredibly talented. I could see him getting a start in one of the preliminary games for sure.
Yeah.
I think Ryan's your 4, and then McLean is a 5. If they want to throw Holmes a start, I know he started 30-something games last year, but and obviously you have Kershaw for the legacy and in his last run of baseball before he's officially done.
Hopefully he can throw that final strikeout. Awesome. Captain America.
Pretty legendary.
Yeah, and then obviously Matt Boyd had a good year too. He had a little bit of a rough second half, and don't even forget Michael Wacha, who's been very consistent for the Royals over the last, I think, 2 seasons, and he was pretty good with the Padres before that. So McLean as a starter could be the move. I would see them giving it to Kershaw first as maybe the 4 or the 5, but
It's foolish.
Yeah, I think for McLean, what it really boils down to is matchup, and I like what you said, Ryan, about maybe him getting a preliminary start, maybe not against one of the more, I guess, conservative, more experienced teams, just because I imagine, McLean, it's all about the whiffs, it's about the breaking balls, and I feel like against a more conservative team, they might just fill up the bases just by, sitting on those pitches. But I could see McLean being the 5th guy. And then the kind of transition just to talking about the bullpen, I think obviously Mason Miller has got to be that high leverage closer. But what kind of, who's his setup guy going to be? I feel like a guy like Brad Keller, who's really made that transition. He's now with the Phillies. Hasn't, I think he had 1 outing in spring training. Didn't go too great. But overall, he's kind of revitalized his career by stepping in that like high leverage arm role, because he has like a starter's mix, but you package it in like a 1 to 2 inning high leverage guy. So who else do you guys see making those kind of, or filling those setup roles to Mason Miller to close out games?
Yeah, Keller's a great option. He had a really good year with the Cubs last year, a 207 in 69 innings. He was really good for them, just coming in, like you said, making that transition. I remember him in Kansas City a couple years ago as a starter. He was not great, and the velocity wasn't anything special. But whatever he did to get him to that point has been big. And I think, despite his struggles last year, especially in the end of the year, what did you call David Bednar?
Expletive the Bednar. You can fill that in, audience.
Exactly. He's always an option. He was very good with the Pirates for a while, and Griffin Jacks is also a guy.
Yeah.
Tampa picked him up for Taj Bradley at the deadline when Minnesota was fire sailing. He could be on the move again, possibly from Tampa if his value keeps spiking. But he's got a guy. He's 5-pitch mix, I believe. Good sweeper, probably one of the best sweepers out of the bullpen we've seen. And then, when it comes to a lefty, there's two, and it's Garrett Clavinger and Gabe Spire. Spire had a really good year last year.
Yeah, and this U.S. team obviously has a lot of firepower, but I'm looking at this Dominican Republic lineup, and I think in terms from a lineup standpoint, I think it's stronger than the U.S. team that's being fielded out there. Now, pitching staff is way different, but, looking at outfield, you have Tatis, Julio Rodriguez, and Juan Soto. In the infield, you have, from left to right, Machado, Jeremy Pena, Ketel Marte, and Vladdy.
Yep.
Austin Wells behind the plate, but, that's whatever. And then looking at their rotation, they have Severino. Christopher Sanchez is obviously going to be their number one guy.
Yeah.
Sandy Alcantara can hopefully have a little bit of a return to, some sort of the form he had in his Cy Young season. And outside of that, I'm not seeing anything that really jumps off the page.
I love the power that they have. I'm looking at a row of three guys here. Dominguez, Camilo Doval, and Estevez are all three high leverage guys that I trust that could probably pump 99 to 100 out of the pen. And then Christopher Sanchez is really coming into his own. Probably, and according to Baseball Savant, he does have the most valuable changeup in baseball, easily a top 3 changeup. He's really a fantastic pitcher. So to have him as your number one, sure, he can't hang with the likes of Screwball or Skeens, but I think he's easily cemented himself as a top 10 pitcher, at least in the context of last year. But to have that guy leading off, and then you have all these high leverage arms, I think lends itself well to the DR.
Yeah, and even two guys you didn't mention when it comes to relievers. Dennis Santana had a really good year, stepping in when Bednar was hurt and banged up in Pittsburgh, and then Abner Uribe, who's probably going to be the Brewers' closer this year. He had a really good playoff stretch. Took the phone, put it right down, looking at the Cubs dugout. Thanks, Craig Counsell. And then Gregory Soto. You're all too familiar with him, Case, and but he, as a lefty, he's very effective facing left-handed hitters, but I'm really scared of this team, and you didn't even mention O'Neal Cruz, who's an enigma in himself, and he could DH, he could do whatever. 6'7", hardest home run in MLB history.
Yeah,
guy just needs to figure it out consistently, but he's got all the talent and can make some noise here.
I mean, Junior Caminero too, and Geraldo Perdomo.
Oh, God.
Like those are all stars from last year. I mean, Perdomo had one of the better
home run derby
seasons.
Runner-up, Junior Caminero.
That's right. Home run derby runner-up. I also want to take a look at this. You can't ignore the Japan roster, Team Japan 2023 World Baseball Classic champions.
Yep.
Masataka Yoshida. You got Seiya Suzuki in the outfield as well. You've got names like Munetaka Murakami, the brand new Chicago White Sox. You've got Yoshinobu Yamamoto on the mound. You've got the GOAT himself, Shohei Ohtani. You got Sugano. Tomoyoki Sugano just got picked up by the Rockies. Yusei Kikuchi. I mean, these are all names that MLB fans are very familiar with, and I only see us getting more familiar with them in the next 2 weeks.
I'm sorry. I'm seeing that Nolan Arenado is
We're looking at the same thing. Yep.
playing for Puerto Rico.
Yeah, so he played for USA the last
gonna
two
say,
classics. He's got that. Actually, he's playing for
He's
Puerto
playing for
Rico.
I did not know that. I
he was
didn't know he
Cuban.
was doing that. He has mixed roots in both, but
Gotcha.
I'm here for that. A little bit more competition.
He knew he couldn't make the Team USA roster this year.
I was gonna say, yeah,
Picked his
that's
back up.
It's kind of hinting at that. But shifting away before we wrap that up, unbiased. Who do you guys think besides the U.S.? I guess you can't really say anything else about the U.S. But in terms of who you think is going to win, I'm going to say who do you think is the biggest competition?
I think it's either the Dominican Republic or Japan.
I think it's the DR.
Yeah,
Right.
that team is just too
Stacked.
good. But I obviously Japan, reigning champions. That Ohtani versus Trout at bat, which we didn't even talk about how it's weird looking at a roster without Mike Trout.
Yeah.
Captain America.
It's really tough. I'm very happy for Anthony. Very happy for Buxton. Pete Crow Armstrong's also on the team. But
He should have had his roster.
Ernie
spots
Clement.
again.
Ernie Clement. I mean, we didn't even talk about how good he was in the postseason.
he was
last year.
fantastic.
Fantastic.
But yeah, Japan and the DR are the two threats to the U.S. And if either matchup was the final, it's must-see TV.
Yeah. And regardless of what it will be, it'll be must-see TV.
Oh yeah, that's just baseball.
Because Noel McLean's going to go out there and pitch a perfect
right.
game. But
All
either way, shifting a little bit more towards the regular season, just, real quick, some early projections for some of the division leaders. Now, I take a look at it. You obviously have, the Dodgers who are going to win their division. I think it's a pretty safe bet to say that the Tigers will win the Central. I know that, there's a lot of Royals truthers out there. I'm personally not one of them. But you could start with a more contentious one, the National League East.
Yeah, and it's a hard one. It's one that is of great importance to you and I, Casey. Yeah. And I think this has a chance to be one of the most, in terms of consistent across the division in terms of playoff success, has the chance to be one of the better, divisions in baseball. I mean, I think the Phillies are destined for another 5th to 6th seed first round exit, middling, just good enough to not be, a bad playoff contender season. So I don't really see them doing anything to push that first place lead away, unless one of the other teams, like if the Braves suffer another major Acuna injury, or the Mets do what the Mets do.
All right.
But I guess I would say that the Marlins started to kind of surge in the the second half of last year.
Yeah, good
mainly
surprise
thanks
last year.
to Kyle Stowers, who's kind of a dog and still has yet to kind of come into the public conscience as the player that he is. So I'm not really sure on this one, but I think it'll be a 3-headed race between Mets, Phillies, Braves.
Yeah, I'm not as huge on the Braves. I feel like they've kind of kept a similar core that they've had since that World Series run. I just don't think that core has the same juice. Now, you can call me a little bit biased, but the reason I would pick the Mets is simply because, barring injuries like last year to our rotation in Penn, I think this is the best our rotation has looked in years. I mean, Peralta, McLean, Minaya, David Peterson, and Kodai Senga is our 5th starter. I mean, I know he's struggled in the playoffs the past few times he's made appearances, but, I mean, this is by far the strongest from top to bottom this rotation has been. I think if they can, stay healthy, I think the bats behind them, despite some, slight, questions around the bottom of the order, there always is. I feel like the top of the order, even without Pete Alonso, is going to be enough to get us over the hump, considering the fact that we got Bo Bichette and Luis Robert in there, because McNeil and Nimmo, at least in my eyes, maybe not so much Nimmo, but they were starting to lose a little bit of that step, some of that electricity they brought, and I think it was a good time to move on. But it'll be interesting to see how the whole kind of new roster just gels together, because, as of right now, you're kind of looking at a situation where there might be some questions around first, whether you want, Vientos or Polanco there, and is there a spot for Brett Beatty? I know those are two guys who haven't really shown exactly the most of what I think they're capable of doing, but I think that even ties into the fact that it's a very deep roster, and, barring injuries, when healthy, I think this is one of the best rosters in the National League, second behind only the Dodgers.
Yeah.
You're welcome for Freddie Peralta, by the way.
That was great.
David Stearns knows what he's doing, man.
He just has, I think Steve Cohen is just he's had enough. Missing the playoffs last year after going to get Soto, he's just throwing money at the wall. He's going to go get whoever he needs to.
Yep. I think Atlanta bounces back this year. They went through so many struggles with injuries last year, and it really hampered them. But I'm not confident in their rotation. Chris Sale, still one of the best pitchers on the planet. Spencer Strider, since he came back from injury, was a little
interesting.
It was interesting, but I think he takes another stride. But the rest of that depth in their rotation, like Reynaldo Lopez, he won a bunch of games at a low ERA a couple years ago, but outside of that, hasn't been too much. And Bryce Elder's not the same pitcher he was 2 years ago, and not having Spencer Schwellenbach, which is a sweet last name, by the way.
Yeah.
Him being on the 60-day, I think he had TJ last year. Not great, but I think getting Acuna back and being healthy is going to be massive for that team. And their outfield with Profar, Harris, who Michael Harris seems to have bounced back after a couple bad seasons.
They got Yaz. I didn't realize they got Yaz.
Mike Yastrzemski.
I
forgot about him. He's another depth guy too that they can use. But yeah, Riley had a bad year last year. He'll bounce back. Olson's still Matt Olson. But I think and then obviously Drake Baldwin came out of nowhere
he was great
win
last
Rookie
year.
of the Year, and that pushed Sean Murphy out, who's no slouch of a player himself anyway. But I think the Mets have the best chance, at least in my eyes, to win the East. But I would not be surprised if 3 teams make it. from the NL East.
Yeah. And for the sake of time, I know we can come back to these at a later point, but I do want to shift over to the NFL. We do have free agency coming up, and there's a lot of, speculation about teams making big moves. Obviously, we'd see David Montgomery get traded today. We see the Chiefs cutting Jawan Taylor, and I feel like this may be a relatively active offseason. But, starting with some of the free agents that we got on there, I want to start off with, well, he's not, exactly what I would consider a attractive QB option. Malik Willis has been receiving a lot of hype now. Not to say he wasn't amazing, this past season when he had to fill in, but I mean, he's probably going to demand a $30+ million contract. Who do you see giving him that?
I think the favorite, at least in my eyes, is the Miami Dolphins. I think,
yeah, the consensus.
Yeah, I think coming from, they just hired two guys who were familiar with him in Green Bay. I think he could come in, either compete with Tua. I think Tua, well, as a Patriots fan, I have my takes on Tua. Yeah,
Tua is awful.
There's that. He is awful. Yeah. I wonder what they do with him because they just owe him so much money,
right.
And I don't know what they decide with that. But I think he could be a fit in Miami, maybe as a stopgap or whatnot. But that's really the only spot mainly I see him working in an offense like that.
Yeah, I think in terms of like what would the best fit be, I think it's got to be Miami. But you have to worry. I don't think they'll be able to find a suitor for Tua. So they're probably going to do like a post June 1st cut, and that's going to save them some money. But that's still Tua's like $50 million guaranteed on your books every year. Like that's going to incur so much of a hit that I don't think they're going to be willing to pay Malik Willis what the market commands, unless they can convince him to do like a 1 year like $15 million contract with like incentives to get up to 20-ish. But I think somewhere else might give him like a Justin Fields-esque contract, like 2 years $40 million or like 2 years $50 million is what I think we'll end up getting. But you're right. It's Malik Willis. There's talent, right? There's a prospect there. But is it worth? At least Justin Fields had a couple seasons and had more tape for you to watch. Even though I am a Justin Fields truther.
Don't be.
Don't be. Okay.
Don't be. Like
Casey, you want to comment on that?
No.
He really was not that bad this year.
Yes, he was.
Maybe your
Yes,
organization
he was.
should do a better job at supporting him because he hasn't had support in his entire career. He's never had a team that's.
You're not sitting there watching Jet Sundays, man. He was not good. He was not good. He would stat pad in the fourth quarter. He'd go into the fourth quarter. He'd be like 4 for 12 with like 30 yards, and then somehow end up with like 190 and 2 touchdowns. And everyone's like, he's not the problem.
What do you want him to do? What do you want to? Okay.
It was
getting off topic here. But yeah, Malik Willis, I think he's going to get priced out of the Dolphins range, and in their eyes, it's let's pay like Kirk Cousins like $5 million a year, win 3 games, and then go try to get a quarterback from the 2027 class. But I bring up this point, and I'm really not sure in my mind where else Malik Willis could go. Maybe Arizona, but they're also going to have massive.
He could be a Steeler.
Dead hit.
Arizona and Miami are in the same spot.
Any QB coming into free agency always has a chance to be a Steeler.
Yeah, but they'll probably bring back Aaron Rodgers for his 42-year-old season or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Or what if they drafted Ty Simpson too? I think either way, keeping Aaron Rodgers, like if they could convince him to sit there and maybe work with like a younger quarterback, maybe they do want to take a shot on Malik Willis and then give him one of those like 1 to 2 year contracts, give him a chance to learn behind Rodgers. Though I guess the play style isn't exactly the match you're hoping for.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to be learning behind Rodgers like right now in Pittsburgh, but I mean, I see him as a natural, maybe not a natural contractual fit in Miami, but they did just get Tyreek Hill off the books, right?
Yep.
Which brings us to another free agent, Tyreek Hill.
What do you think, Jonah? Anywhere scream? There's a place in my mind.
There's an obvious place in my mind, and I feel like it's also a natural fit. It's the piece of the puzzle that Bo Nix is missing. I mean,
whoa.
Bo Nix needs
AFC West team
of a skilled position player. I mean, a wide receiver like Tyreek Hill is something he's never had in his career. Like Cortland Sutton, he gets those 50-50 balls, but
you know who Bo Nix does have?
Marvin Mims.
And Lil Jordan Humphrey.
Lil Jordan
Humphrey is not catching those touchdowns.
Lil Jordan Humphrey is not entering this conversation. That shouldn't impact the time.
I'm gonna make him enter.
Is he not gone?
That being said,
I thought he was in New York. Did he go back to Denver?
We got him right at the end of the season.
Okay, you got him.
Yeah.
We're in a love abusive relationship with Lil Jordan Humphrey.
I didn't think about the Broncos. I think they go maybe for more like an Alec Pierce type, like someone who has a little bit more time in their career because Sutton's what, like 28, 29?
Sutton's definitely
2018 draft.
he's gonna
I think.
need a new contract.
He's getting up there.
Yeah, but he still has some legs left under him. Tyreek's coming off a major injury. Like
That was bad.
I find it tough for a team like the Broncos to really want to put all their eggs in that basket. I was thinking a team like the Patriots, which
No thanks.
yeah, I was gonna say I'd be fine with that, but I could see them jumping on it considering the fact that they don't really have a deep ball guy.
They don't. But a guy like Kayshon Boutte really stepped into his role with that this year. Kyle Williams has also shown flashes of being able to breakaway speed. And I wonder if they go to the trade market for a receiver and there's someone in Philly who's seems to be pretty disgruntled who knows our coach pretty well.
You can't have him.
But would him and Stephon Diggs possibly kill each other in the locker room? There's that. Probably.
Well, okay. So let's get one thing straight, right? So Stephon Diggs is a criminal, right?
He's gonna be playing.
AJ Brown is just
No one's pressing charges.
It's just a complainer, right? So
for now,
let's be honest. Diggs would kill AJ Brown, but AJ Brown would
he wouldn't kill him. He would strangle him.
just go to a book. Just go to a corner and read his book instead. So I think that's interesting, and I guess I'm curious as a Patriots fan how much faith you really do have in Kyle Williams because I mean his ceiling as a player is kind of filling a similar role to Tyreek Hill. I don't think his ceiling is obviously close to Tyreek Hill, but I feel like they fit the kind of same role. So sending Tyreek to New England, unless they want Kyle Williams to learn from him, I think the amount that Tyreek is going to demand might cause some team to overpay for him, and if not, then the contenders like the Broncos and I guess the Patriots will be considered a contender next year based off what they did this year. That's when they'll come into play on maybe those like lower prove it contracts because he is such a question mark.
Yeah,
and even if he lives up to like everything he could be, I'm still not sure he's able to retain even like top 25 receiver form.
I feel like we missed the obvious spot for Tyreek Hill.
The Chiefs.
Yes, the Kansas City Chiefs.
People are thinking it. I think it's the most likely, but I don't think it's the best fit.
It's probably not,
I think they need to invest in actual young receivers in the draft.
Yes.
I mean, it's been working out for them recently. I know Worthy kind of tapered off at the end of the season, but I mean, Rashee Rice's talent is unbelievable.
Very fast.
Very fast. Yeah, you could say that. But I think he's their number one. I mean, I think he's shown like the traits of a number one receiver, and I think that they need a little bit of a higher end wide receiver too to make up for the fact that while I say he's talented, I don't think he has that top 15 talent.
Yeah.
And his stats are a little bit inflated from being Mahomes' guy. Anyone who's going to be in that role is going to put up some good numbers. But I think that they need to invest in a younger and more technicious, like middle of the field, like route technician kind of guy, because they have Worthy stretching the field, they have Rashee Rice for their short yard situations. I think they need someone else to kind of bridge that gap in the middle.
Yeah,
I've got and the perfect person in my mind is Parker Washington, who we didn't list as a free agent. And I'm assuming Jacksonville's going to do everything in their power to bring him back because he was so good last year. Mm-hmm. But just thinking about guys who could split the middle, like he's such an underrated player. So I would actually love to see that fit. And then I'd love to in turn see Tyreek maybe go to a team like, I think Baltimore could be kind of fun because
follow Hopkins.
yeah, I mean, a lot of wide receivers end up in Baltimore. It's just it's a common pipeline.
You light my fire. Speaking of which, I could also go on the Titans, but you could say that about any receiver. Honestly.
Mike Evans,
honestly,
Titan.
Why does the Titans kind of feels like the best option? Am I crazy for saying that? Like, it just feels like
for Mike Evans,
a lot of old free agents, I feel like are going to find themselves attracted to Tennessee because I think now the Titans. This is what shocks me, right? Because they didn't really show – they have potential, obviously. They showed nothing last year. They won, like 3 games, and one of them was a fluke. And I feel like Brian Daboll sorting out, like, other amazing, like, coaching vacancies to, like, demand to be the offensive coordinator for the Titans. They bring in Saleh, and now I feel like they're really jumping the gun here. I think Tyreek Hill in his mind can think, like, here's a great chance to go to a contender and then go to the Titans, and then they just do absolutely nothing. So
yeah, the Titans last year – it's really tough to watch Cam Ward in that situation because he is so talented.
He's incredible.
I think he's going to be a good NFL quarterback for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Wouldn't Mike Evans be a great guy to?
I think so.
To mentor him.
It's funny you mentioning they won 3 games. One of them they won their first game that they won when they beat Arizona. It was Amari DiMercato dropped the ball at the goal line. Then it took them until week 13 to beat Cleveland. But that was only because Kevin Stefanski ran the worst 2-point conversion, one of the worst 2-point conversions ever. And then they beat a Chiefs team the week after we're 2 weeks removed from Mahomes tearing out his leg, and then Gardner Minshew doing the same thing.
Exactly.
And they were starting Chris Olaokun or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, I never heard of
What did they show? I don't understand. It's people hype on the potential train, right? They say this team has potential. And then the more and more those takes get dispersed, the more and more and people in their minds start to think like, oh my God, this team's about to be crazy. They essentially, all right, this is going to be crazy. They won no games last year, all right?
Yeah, pretty much.
That Titans game, because we're not even remembering. So the DeMarcado fumble, that was one in a million play. Then the other one where Cam Ward throws an interception. The Arizona defender takes it, fumbles it, and then Tyler Lockett recovers in the end zone for a touchdown.
Yeah.
Another washed receiver going to Tennessee, Tyler Lockett.
There's the pipeline, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting, but I think Mike Evans is at the point in his career where he is not washed. And if you want to go the veteran receiver route, I would shell out a good amount of money, maybe more than Mike Evans is worth, just to get that leadership, because they're so young over there. But they've got some nice young guys in the receiver room, like Kamari Dike is very, very good, especially on special teams.
Like Ayomanar?
Ayo
Manor.
He's good too, as like a kind of like a deep threat guy. And then I feel like they could maybe dabble in some lower end targets, maybe ball out for like a Wan'Dale Robinson, who's another one of the premier receiver.
Our second listed wide receiver on this.
Yeah. But where else do you see? I feel like it's a good segue to talk about him because he deserves more respect, and maybe his name is just getting touted just because nobody else is available in this receiver room.
Are we talking about Wan'Dale
But-
Robinson?
Yeah, but he had a nice year.
I place Wan'Dale and Dobbs in kind of a similar boat in the sense that there are some wide receiver needy teams that need need guys like both of them who, kind of do different things, but like a lot of teams have needs for both those guys. Looking at Wan'Dale Robinson, I'm trying to think of who are some teams that need like a good slot receiver to kind of, open up like some short yard situations, open up those mid-level routes.
Interesting.
What do you have in Denver that is something like that?
I was gonna say,
I think Pat Bryant's our guy right now.
Okay.
yeah, and see, no one else in the world would ever say that.
Yeah,
So.
only you would say that.
I'm a Pat Bryant truther, man. I mean,
Sound very confident in him.
Yeah,
No.
but I mean, I could see a guy like Romeo Dobbs being, a little bit overpaid by a team like the Bills, who I think at this point have to finally address this severe lack for the past couple of years at the wide receiver position. And, Khalil Shakir is a good, like, short yardage guy. Like, he'll get you, like, 7 catches for 40 yards, but those will be some crucial first downs. I think they need a guy like Romeo Dobbs who can get those mid-level targets.
It's just it's a step in the right direction, but we come back to it again and again. And if the Bills are in a playoff game and they're in if they're in the Broncos game, right? Imagine that's a whole year from now, and they've signed Romeo Dobbs, and they're in overtime and they're driving, and it's a 3rd and 5. I just can't see Joe Brady calling, let's call Romeo Dobbs' number, right? And it's the problem that we come back to time and time again on this podcast. And it sucks that this free agent, especially for Bills fans, it sucks because this free agency class does not present any premier receivers as guys whose name you could call, and you'd have to go in the trade market for that. It's a step in the right direction, right? Because Khalil Shakir, you give him, someone next to him that's not going to, take his responsibilities away, and you can operate in that like wide receiver 2 slot, move around the field guy. And Romeo Dobbs is a nice compliment, but Keon Coleman is out of there. He has not panned out.
Yep.
He's not going to play, not after your GM talks about you that way, which is terrible, by the way, that they would speak about him, even though he hasn't been good. But yeah, I mean, it looks like this class is rich with guys like Parker Washington, Romeo Dobbs, Wan'Dale Robinson, who could be your wide receiver 2, but if you need a wide receiver 1, you're out of luck.
Yeah.
This free agency class, when it comes to wide receivers, is basically just what the new age, at least for drafting, has been. So you get a maybe kind of undersized, really fast guy, and you let him just cook over the middle of the field. But you're not really gonna find a home run threat here. I guess Mike Evans is your best bet for that. But even at 32, he's unfortunately nearing the end of what was a great career. And I know that the 1,000-yard streak ended this year, but not really his fault with Baker getting hurt and all that, but him just getting pushed out of Tampa. But it does say a little bit about the new age of wide receivers that all these guys are, because it's 4 years after they've been drafted. So 2022 draft, that was kind of when, the height of these really mobile quarterbacks who needed really mobile receivers to cut over the middle of the field. And you've seen it with guys who've succeeded, Shakir, a couple other guys like Pop Douglas, same-ish draft. So it's kind of telling on where the NFL is going and that these guys are they're going to get paid.
Yeah.
So that's the answer.
And I think just a couple more before we wrap up. There's two guys in different positions I want to address. So first one would be Kenneth Walker, running back. Now, the running back market has seen a little bit of an uptick in the past couple of years. They're finally starting to get paid some of that money that I think that they deserve. I'm just curious, what do you guys think happens with Kenneth Walker? I have a feeling he's going to jump, but it puts teams, a bit of a precarious situation. I think he goes to another contender because I think that some of the teams who are, picking towards the top of the draft, aren't going to be totally focused on running backs outside of a team, namely the Chiefs, who are going to target Jeremiah Love. But does he even make it out of the top 5 in the draft? I mean, he's getting top 4 shouts.
He's really talented. I don't watch enough college football to speak on that, but he, my buddy's a big Notre Dame fan, and all he does was talk about how good Jeremiah Love was.
It's incredible.
It's all I hear about. But, I mean, I think with Kenneth Walker, I do think they let him walk, and
Good one.
jeez. But
I'm not gonna laugh track in there.
Thanks.
I got you.
I'll be here all day.
But, I could see a team like maybe the Saints,
Yeah.
who are, maybe in their own head thinking that they might be a little bit faster on track with this rebuild after Tyler Shuck had that strong end of the season. Do I think that they'll, give Kenneth Walker that $15 million contract that I think that some teams might be willing to offer him? I don't know. But I think that he's likely candidate. I think maybe the Commanders might make a run at him. I could see
the Giants going for him.
Yeah,
too.
I could see the Vikings making a run at him. They said they're going to release Aaron Jones, meaning that their running back one is Jordan Mason, which he didn't really show enough in that. I had higher expectations for him last year. I know
We loved him.
You heard me talking about him every week.
We love Jordan.
Every
Love, yeah.
week, but he didn't quite get it done. Now, I would have said the Cowboys, but for some reason they're sticking with Javonte Williams.
Gave him the big extension.
He's
Yeah.
tough.
Big
He's tough.
extension.
He's tough. He had a good year.
He's,
But-
good.
he's all right.
They should have kept Rico.
And then the Texans, who
Yeah.
jumped the gun and just traded for Dave Montgomery, which
Yeah.
I think was a bad trade.
I think it's weird to separate Sonic and Knuckles, him and Gibbs.
Yeah.
Especially only for, a fifth?
It ended up
fourth.
being
It was
like it
fourth.
was a 4th and 7th and like a backup tackle.
Okay.
But that
that's-
tackle's name is Juice, so he kind of.
Oh, okay. I don't
Juice
know.
Strug.
That's even better.
They got the juice.
Strugs.
They
They did get the juice.
They got the juice.
The juice is loose.
But real quick, rapid fire. Who do you guys think is going to go after Kenneth Walker?
I like New Orleans. I like that call.
Yeah?
I think they could dump off Kamara. I think he's unfortunately nearing his end. Or you have a sick backfield with
I was going to say. I mean,
'cause-
Kamara's kind of been like relegated to a more of a third down back
Yeah.
role at this point in his career.
And K9 can be your bell cow.
Exactly.
100%. I think the NFC South is so open that any bit strong stretch of play, if New Orleans played like they played at the end of the year, they probably could have competed for that top. I mean, they were all those teams had losing records.
Yeah.
So they're all
Yeah.
they're all trash, but they're all competitively trash.
Yeah. What about you, Jonah?
Yeah, I could see him going to New York and joining the Giants. I think if the Giants could actually get Jeremiah Love, I know they got Scat. I know Scat's coming back from injury. I know Singletary's been there for a while, not making much of an impact. I mean, Walker, Love, Scat, Dart. That's starting to shape up into something legitimate that the Giants haven't had in a long time.
Yeah, I like that shout, and I'll do something in the same division. I feel like the Commanders are where I'd land Kenneth Walker. I think it's going to be a bidding race, and I think the Commanders are just desperate to kind of scrap some value out of this Jaden Daniels rookie contract and try to compete in the NFC. So I think they'll throw. I think Kenneth Walker's contract will be up to like 20 a year, which would be the highest in the league for a running back. If I'm not mistaken, I think Saquon's is like 18.
What's CMC's?
Probably
I think CMC's
probably
is
close to that.
around Saquon's.
Yeah.
I'm also going to go with the Saints just because they're finally out of cap space hell,
Yes.
and I think they might be excited to spend some money.
Yeah, and I would love to just give a quick shout out as well. Now, I think Kenneth Walker's contract is going to get jacked, but there are so many other good running backs. Like, Najee Harris can still contribute. Travis Etienne is fantastic, in my opinion. Rico Dowdle is like, if you're a team that wants to compete, doesn't really want to invest in like a high-value running back, that's your one-year stopgap, or if you could sign to a longer contract. And then Breece Hall is fantastically talented.
Brees is getting
And
tagged.
I think he's so like done with the Jets that unless they tag him,
They're going to tag. They're going to tag.
which they probably will. I think another team could make a nice offer for him.
Guy like Tyler Algier too.
He's tough.
He was good a few years ago, and then obviously Bijan has just been a superstar.
Yeah.
But that could be a guy that someone takes a little flyer on, makes a play at.
Yeah, I think with a guy like Algier, I think a lot of teams are going to kind of take a little bit of a page out of this, like Mark Ingram, Kamara, Gibbs, David Montgomery kind of playbook and start to transition a little bit more into these two running back sets. Like, funnily enough, I could see a team like the Lions making a run at a guy like Tyler Algier.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think that they will just because they're pretty confident in what Jahmyr Gibbs can do. But, I mean, I'm hoping that more teams will kind of shift towards that strategy because it's just, in my opinion, the right way to go about it. And then, like, look at, like, Kenneth Gainwell, for example.
Exactly.
I could see a team like the Packers making a run for him. Josh Jacobs kind of tapered off at the end of the season, and it was, due to injuries. I got hurt by him in fantasy, so I'm still a little bit salty. But, I mean, he's middling at best in terms of, like, a receiving back role. He gets that volume because of his role in the offense, but I think a guy like Kenneth Gainwell would be a perfect complement. Now, the one last guy I wanted to touch on before we wrapped up is on the other side of the ball, Trey Hendrickson. Now, he is 31, but he's still shown that he can operate as a top 10 edge rusher in the league. Maybe not so much last year, but I still have that faith in him just because, I mean, he seems pretty done with the Bengals. He requested a trade, and they were like, nah. So, he played that last season. He's such a talented rusher. I mean, 2 years ago, he had, I think,
17 and a half.
17 and a half sacks. So
Crazy.
who are some, edge and E teams that you could see making a jump at him? Because I think that'll be more of a competitor market.
I'll start off with the New England Patriots. That's a team. It wasn't the reason why stuff went downhill for them in the Super Bowl. But I think a big thing, at least watching as a fan and unfortunately being in attendance at Levi's Stadium that fateful afternoon/night, did not get enough pressure on the quarterback. Harold Landry is very capable of doing his role, but he's more of a plays 2 downs out of 4 at all times. And I think maybe that has to do with injury. He was fighting it at the end of the year. But outside of that, like, it was a lot of internal pressure from Milton Williams and Barmore, and then Corey Durden, stepped up and did some stuff. And
I think you guys are good at nose tackle.
Well, yeah,
tackle,
yes. Very good interior. The edges and outside linebacking needs to improve. And I think Hendrickson, he's going to obviously cost you a lot of money, but when you have some space to spend it on, and it allows you to keep your draft picks instead of trading for a guy like Max Crosby, who is incredibly talented as well and wants out of Vegas. Hendrickson's a guy I think could really benefit New England and give them another weapon on the defensive end to force quarterbacks into having to throw quick out routes and them getting jumped by Gonzalez or Marcus Jones or whoever else.
Yeah, I think that's a great look, and it kind of fits the mold. Young team competing, money to spend, and that's going to be, I feel like every team in the league would love to have Hendrickson, but seeing as he's going to get priced anywhere from 25 to like upwards of $30 million a year, I feel like that rules out a couple edge needy teams that might not be able to afford it. Like, I'm thinking about the Atlanta Falcons, who are now dealing with this whole James Pierce scandal, and him being able to play next year is completely up, for grabs, right? So I would look at, more teams than what Ryan talked about in that mold of young, competing, and have money. So maybe a team like, a lot of these NFC North teams like the Bears, you can never have enough, help off the edge. And
him and Sweat would be lethal.
That would be beautiful. I mean, we see in Houston how having 2, premier edge rushers is really, it helps them to elevate each other. So I would look at a team like the Bears. Maybe if the Falcons can get some money off their table, they'd love to bring him in.
What do you think about the Commanders, Alex?
I think it's interesting, right? And I think they have the cap space to throw the money at him. But I will say I don't think it's trending back in the direction of the mistake that the Commanders made immediately after that NFC Championship run, which is instead of bringing young talent like the Patriots did, they see they have something in Drake May, so they bring in all these young guys, and now you guys went to the Super Bowl, you have the same team next year, right? And you can only add on to it. But what did the Commanders do after they went to the NFC Championship? They brought in 1 million 35-year-old vets on 1-year contracts. They were terrible. And look, here we are. Jaden Daniels barely played. They didn't make the playoffs. They were awful. And now they have, a top 10 draft pick. So I would love for them to get him because he's, a premier player. But 31, it's like you're going to sign him for 4 years. Does that really fit your timeline? I don't think it does.
No.
Yeah, I'm thinking more so. I know I've talked about competitors. I could see a team like the Niners or the Ravens kind of making a jump at them.
Mm-hmm.
They were both bottom 3 in sacks last year, along with the New York Jets. Never company you want to be around. The Niners only had 20 sacks the whole season, and this is a Robert Saleh led defense who lives for pressure. When he was with the Jets, it was pressure, pressure, pressure. He invested so much in his edges. When he was with the Niners before that, he had Eric Armstead and he had DeForest Buckner. He got Nick Bosa after that. After Buckner left for the Colts,
Right.
I think there was a little bit of an overlap.
Yeah.
But regardless, he prides himself on having those guys. Nick Bosa is going to be back healthy, and he's going to want someone on that other side. Now, looking at the Ravens, I could see him doing something similar, considering at least the Niners still had a good defense. It's a well put together.
For how many injuries they had?
For how many injuries they had? Incredible. The Ravens did not have a good defense. They were getting torched on every side of the ball, and I could see them kind of making a splash, especially division rival, a guy who I supposedly hates the Bengals. I could, see that being a good fit, or a team like the Bills, who have kind of taken a similar approach to the Commanders, like you said, where they keep trying to get these like old, like veteran guys who have been great in the past to be that fix at the edge. But Joey Bosa didn't work out. Von Miller didn't work out. The Von Miller contract to this day is, I think, the worst I've ever seen.
So bad.
5 years, $120 million when he's like 36.
Yeah.
Either
So
way,
disappointing.
I could see them maybe going down a similar route because they're not really in a draft position to get an elite edge rusher out of this class. So those are my 3 picks. If I had to choose one, gun to my head, I'd say the Niners. But I wouldn't be surprised if you went elsewhere.
That defense would be lethal. I mean, that's the NFC West is going to be a bloodbath.
Oh, yeah.
And Arizona, but the top 3 in that is going to be. I mean, the Rams. Stafford one last go at it, coming off an MVP, which I have my own thoughts about, but maybe for another time. But yeah, that division. If they had Hendrickson, that is a scary defense with Warner coming back, Bosa coming back.
Yeah.
Quarterbacks beware.
Right.
I think the Niners would be in a good spot. And I think with that, we can wrap up for today. Glad we got to talk some more NFL. I know I certainly missed it. It's definitely my favorite to talk about. But stay tuned because next week we won't have an episode up for you. We're all going to be gone for our spring break. So there will be an episode posted, but we won't have exact clarity on the free agency situation. So stay tuned for that when we're back, and we'll talk over how we see some of these fits with the teams and the players.
Yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you, Jonah and Ryan, for joining us. This was such a joy.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, and thank you guys so much for watching, and we will talk to you soon. Have a great break, everybody.
Stay tuned.
Take care.